Hi, I'm Teresa Kanan with Stitch and Tree Quilts, and this is the North to Alaska quilt. Today I want to show you how to construct the birds in the air, made from a flying geese method, a very traditional method. The birds are a little more tricky. We'll be making our birds using the flying geese method that we did for the trees, where we're using the triangles, quarter square triangles, and we're stitching it to the sides of the half square triangle. But you will note that you have two different birds, bird one and bird two fabric, and you have three different skies. In the chart indicated, bird one needs to have 9 birds made with sky 1 fabric. Bird one needs 2 birds with sky 2 fabric. Bird one needs 2 birds with sky 3 fabric. And this is where it gets a little tricky. Bird one needs 2 birds that have sky 1 fabric on the left, this being the left when you look at the top of the bird, and sky 2 fabric on the right. There's the right, as indicated there. That's because as the quilt changes colors through the sky, part of those birds are going to be light blue, part of them are going to be just a little bit darker. Make sure you pay attention to this chart when you're constructing your birds. The cutting directions indicate that you should cut your birds using a 5 1/4 inch square, cut in half diagonally both ways. So you end up with 4 quarter square triangles. For the sky units, you'll cut a 2 7/8 inch square in half diagonally one way. So you have 2 halves of that. For each one of the birds, we'll construct these the same as we did with the trees, where we will take the half square triangle, place it on the corner, with the corners matching here and the right angle matching here. It will slightly overlap on this end, but that's okay. We'll trim those off a little bit later. Stitch it diagonally from the top corner down to the long corner at the bottom with that 1/4 inch seam. Again, I match up that lower corner, right angles together there. And run it through my machine from the top to the outside corner. Once I have my pieces stitched, I set the seam by pressing the iron to the top, just holding to the top, finger press that over, and press the sky out from the flying geese. Hold that in place for 5 seconds. And I'll be ready now to add my second sky unit to my bird flying geese. Again, I match up this outside corner, match up my right angle. I'm going to have an overlap, and I can stitch 1/4 inch from this outside corner to the inside corner using my 1/4 inch foot on my machine. With the second sky piece, stitch here on the left-hand side of my unit. Again, I'm going to set the seam, flip the sky to the outside, and then hold the iron in place for 5 seconds. I have dog ears on 3 sides of my unit, so it's time for me to trim that up. I'm not going to just take my scissors and trim it. I'm going to actually use my ruler so I can measure and make sure I have the unit squared up as it should. So to square up my flying geese unit for the birds, or even for the trees, I like to use a 4 1/2 inch square. This one happens to be a Fiskars. What I like about it is that it's actually the exact right size that I need for the sides. And again, I'm not just going to lay it on here and cut. I have to pay attention to my ruler markings. I want a 2 1/2 inch piece, so I will set my 2 1/2 inch marking here along the bottom of the outside edge of the flying geese. And the ruler that I'm using happens to have a light orange marking at 2 1/4. So it's perfect. I can line that up with the center where the peak of my 2 sky units meet. So when I line that up, I'm looking to see if the diagonal comes down to the corner of my unit here. I'm lined up with my peak, and my diagonal comes to the corner of this unit. So it's ready for me to square up. Now you can see that my 2 flying geese units here do not meet perfectly at the top. There's a little bit of an overlap, but I know where that overlap is the 2 1/2 inch wide part. So I'll be using that as my key to focus on when I'm stitching my units together. This little piece here that doesn't quite make 2 1/2 inches, I'll make that up in the seam.